and welcome to the channel. Here, I share Scareful stories. Stories to make you scared, make you think, make you wonder, and maybe, just maybe, make you a little more careful. If you like what you see, please give the video a like, leave a comment down below to let everyone know what you're thinking, and I'd love it if you would subscribe to the channel. And now, the Scareful story of the Dane County Chimney Doe. It was Labor Day weekend, September 1989, and Steve Lythen, owner of Good and Loud Music, was trying to get the building at 5225 University Avenue in Madison, Wisconsin, ready for his store to open. That day, he needed to fix a clay pipe that went from the boiler in the basement to the chimney and then up to the roof. Wanting to see if he'd be able to find the leak, he shone a flashlight into the pipe and he was able to see something, but it wasn't a crack in the pipe. Down the pipe about 10 feet, right where it made a right angle to head up and out of the building, there were bones, human bones. Steve called the police. Detectives who responded later talked about it being the smallest crime scene they'd ever worked, a 25 by 11-inch pipe. Police needed to dig out the bottom of the chimney to access the remains. There were bones, hair, clothing, a comb, a German iron cross necklace, and a butter knife. Obviously, there was no identification found with the body. Police worked with a forensic anthropologist to try and gain more information about what the person looked like when they were alive. It was determined that the remains were likely that of a white male, approximately 5 feet 6 inches tall, with an overbite and brown hair. His age ranged from 18 at the young end to 30 at the high end. The person could have died as long as 2 years prior, but as recently as 2 months before the discovery. The bones revealed that the pelvis had been broken. It is unknown if the breaks happened prior to the body finding its way into the chimney or from falling down the chimney. If the body had gotten stuck further up the chimney, then as it decomposed, the bones would have fallen to the bottom. Although the skeleton was almost certainly that of a young man, the clothing included a paisley dress with a matching belt, a long-sleeve button-down shirt, a size medium shaggy style sweater, and women's low-heeled shoes. He was not wearing any underwear, but was wearing a pair of socks with another pair found with the bones. How had the body gotten into the chimney? There was no way to access the chimney from inside the building as the pipe was attached to a boiler. Had the person been murdered, or were they attempting to gain entry into the building? The skull was sent off to have a facial rendering done as well as a bust reproduction. Police tried to match the body to known missing persons. They tried to compare the body characteristics to former jail inmates. They also tried comparing dental records, and they looked into known small-time burglars. They even checked into lists of cars that had been towed or abandoned to see if they could find a link to the John Doe that way, but they had no luck. The television show Hard Copy did a sensationalized story on the John Doe. The show recreated a potential scenario in which the John Doe was murdered as a result of a date gone horribly wrong. What if John Doe was murdered when the man they were out on a date with found out that they weren't a woman? Could they have murdered him and then dumped his body down the chimney in an attempt to hide it? At the time, police hoped that nationwide publicity about the case would lead to an identification, but over 30 years later, they wonder if instead it hindered their investigation. Is it possible that a family member didn't come forward in order to avoid the publicity circus? Although many felt the body was put in the chimney to cover up a murder, some found it more likely that John Doe was trying to break into the building and got stuck in the chimney and perished there. That led others to question why someone would go to the trouble of breaking into a bakery and Christian bookstore, which is what the building was used for prior to Good and Loud. Good question, but a question for those thinking it was murder. How did the murderer get the body up onto the roof and get it into the chimney? That's no small feat when you consider you'd be carrying a dead body up onto a roof. Steve, the owner of Good and Loud, thought that someone could have accessed the roof by climbing up old appliances that were along the back wall of the building when it was being cleaned out. Over the intervening decades, the John Doe has not been forgotten. George Hesselberg, who writes for the Wisconsin State Journal, wrote an article every year for almost 15 years around the time of the anniversary of the discovery, hoping that someone would come forward with information that could help identify the missing person. Madison detective Jim Grant also never stopped looking for answers. About not solving the case, he says, "It's a real hole in my reflection on my career." There was some movement on the case when a new tip came in 2012. Laura Zimmerman, who had worked at the Wisconsin State Capitol, said that she thought the person in the picture had been a page. Pages are young adults who help legislators with basic things like distributing copies of documents, passing messages, fetching water, and they may also help with some ceremonial duties. The problem with identifying the John Doe as a page is that there would have been 30 to 40 pages during a legislative session, and people were being asked to remember a temporary worker from over 2 decades prior. Detectives did investigate the lead, but with no success. In July of 2018, Detective Lindsay Ludden asked that the Chimney John Doe case be assigned to her. She was hearing about John Does being identified using DNA and genealogy and thought that might work to help get this John Doe his name back. The next year, in November of 2019, Ludden was contacted by the DNA Doe Project. The DNA Doe Project is a group of volunteers who use genetic genealogy to help identify John and Jane Does. It took 2 years for Detective Ludden to get permission to provide hair that was found in the chimney to a lab in California, which is currently trying to extract DNA from it. The hair does not have its roots, and so it makes it harder to get the DNA. If the lab is able to extract DNA, then the DNA Doe Project will begin to look for matches to family members, which could eventually lead to discovering who the Dane County Chimney Doe is. So where does all this leave us? We still don't have any answers, but we sure are a lot closer than we've ever been. Everyone deserves their name, and along with giving John Doe his name back, finding out who he is gives police the best chance at also figuring out how he came to be in the chimney. If you have information on who Dane County Chimney Doe is, please contact the Dane County Coroner's Office at 608-284-6010. I'll keep an eye out for any updates on identification of this John Doe, but in the meantime, let me know what you think happened down below. And until next time, stay safe and stay careful.